Um, Today I'm gonna be showing off a Nezha build I was working on. I finally got my hands on Divine Retribution augment for the Nezha's fourth ability, so I thought I would make a build for it. Basically, how the ability works is it nails down the enemies with spears from the ground, and when you recast it, it slams them onto the ground and makes a little explosion effect. And the augment makes all of the status effects on the enemies get spread to the other speared enemies. And I combine it with the ripping chakram, if that's how you pronounce it, augment. Basically, just takes the basic ring as it throws, but it divides into it increases the damage. I think it already divides the multiple without the augment, as long as the enemy is on the spear. Yeah. I think that's how it worked. Yeah. Basically, the ring just divides into multiple rings as it's hitting the enemies, and every time it passes through an enemy, it doubles the damage, and each ring can hit up to 6 enemies when passing. And because there's Archon Vitality on the build, it's gonna apply 2 of the burning effects per ring per target. And you're able to recast the chakram again once the first ring, the original ring, returns to you. And it's always going to be the first one that's returning because of the cap of 6 targets on the ring. Equilibrium, gets you some energy from damage caused. The blazing chakram makes enemies drop more health orbs, so if you take damage, you get some energy as well from that. I haven't really had any problems with it, so no arcane energize or anything like that. Just higher maximum to make it more comfortable to use, cause 100 energy is still 100 energy, but it's quite pricey in a sense. You have another version of the build as well with the mecha set and shock trooper for the if you're wanting to use melee weapon with influence for spreading the melee weapons, because these do double dip from each other. It might cause your game to freeze every now and then, because it's if you have 20 enemies, you are putting 20 enemies statuses on all 20 enemies. So it's a lot of information for the game to pass through around. And then the mecha set on top of that. That would put a third layer. But with the mecha one, it's not all 20 are passing their statuses It's just one of them is spreading its stasis to the other enemies as well. Just spreads a lot of statuses. I don't have any companion right now, so I'm not gonna be able to use the mecha set. Oh yeah, and I have some extra strength from shards. 40 strength and casting speed and health regen. Just to be a bit more comfortable. I'll show the freezing part first. A lot of enemies passing the stage process. They're almost dead already. All of them. Yeah. It's pretty visible, and you can definitely feel the game freezing every time you're spreading statuses from that many enemies to each other. But if you don't use melee influence on your weapon, it's gonna not happen. Next up I'll show the first comes back, you can cast it again. As tanky enemies as these Steel Path heavy gunners, you're most likely gonna want to cast, if you have such a big pile, you're gonna want to cast the thing twice, or you're gonna want to slam the spears. It doesn't quite kill all of them, depending on how the ring was bouncing around. So, if you for some reason find level 200 Steel Path, Corrupted Heavy Gunners in your mission, do keep in mind that they're gonna need the 2 chakrams with this amount of strength. It's gonna, the old augmented is gonna bit by bit increase the damage, but initially at the very least. Because if you have something like raw, it's also gonna take it over the edge. Or you only need to cast once. And of course you can also mix in your melee weapons or anything that procs statuses. Which one is this? PPL slash action corpus again. I remember when the augment came out, a lot of people were making videos about how OP Divine Spears is, when you can just do this to delete all of the enemies. But I don't know. For me personally, I just find it nice that also enables one of the older augments to be usable again, like the Blazing Chakram. When I first started playing Warframe, placing chakram was, in my opinion, one of the coolest augments. Because without the augment, it's not strong enough to kill enemies really. You would need to do the... Normally, it gets thrown and it bounces. You can also charge it. It deals more damage, but then it doesn't bounce around. So without the augment, you don't have a good method for increasing the damage. There's a baby to know. Being able to... obviously Steel Path wasn't a thing back then. So going to the back then as level missions, just toss a frisbee around and killing the enemies was pretty cool in my opinion. Yeah, this one is basically the same but with a different helmet ability on there. Instead of throw, it's just more melee and more all kinds of status spreading. You do need the enemy that's marked to be in the Divine Spears, so it starts spreading the status around, but it's extra spread. If you wanna play status, you are gonna play status. Oh yeah, something I should mention. If the enemies are very resistant to damage, and you want to utilize the 1.5 times multiplier by default from the SPS. For me it's 2.25. It is more damage than the 5 procs would deal, so for tanky enemies you might want to use the slam if you can't quite replicate the build 1-to-1 and won't be able to kill Steel Path enemies if you have maybe 90 strength or something similar. Then the slam can help you with that a lot. That's why I also have the multi-efficiency for high level missions in the newer areas, for example, where the enemy levels are about 200. So you can comfortably use all of the chakrams you want, cast anything else you want, shoot enemies, and then cast the 4 again while the enemies are still speared, so it slams them into the ground and one-shots them.